There's an oval. An oval guy. Well, they get some ovals. NASCAR's in trouble because even at the World 600, they didn't sell out by any means. They didn't even come close. And now they're getting a little nervous, from what I hear. Yeah. Are you ready? Oh, are you ready? All right, it's that time for the Autosportradio.com 2016 show, presented tonight, as always, by Honda and Honda HPD. Founded in 1993 to spearhead Honda's entry into IndyCar racing, Honda Performance Development has overseen successful racing efforts at all levels of the sport, from karting and quarter midgets to IndyCar and prototype sports cars. HPD offers race engines and competition products for professional, amateur, and entry-level racers. For more information about the company and the racing products, please visit hpd.honda.com. That's hpd.honda.com. I want to remind you that this Sunday, the 25th, is the Kohler Grand Prix of Road America. It'll be seen live Sunday, June 26th, on NBC Sports Network, and I just got a copy of what they'll be televising. Practice at noon Eastern Time on Friday the 24th, live qualifying, 5:30 Eastern Saturday the 25th, tape delayed, the qualifying, and of course the race will be live at 12:30 Sunday. Lee Diffie is the lead announcer for the NBC Sports Network, with broadcasters and analysts Townsend Bell and Paul Tracy. I want to remind you, wait a minute, there's something else on my list here. For those of you that went to the SVRA, what a great event. Really well run, well organized, great races. They broke up the event into two divisions. The more powerful engine division, Paul Tracy won, and the other division, Robbie Unser won, with Al Unser Jr. coming in third. They had the concert of Three Dog Night, and I didn't know Three Dog Night from a hole in the wall. And if somebody would have played a record and said who recorded this, I wouldn't have had a clue. I heard a couple of tunes that I knew, and then I realized it was their song, so that I knew. But it was a good concert. It was good. They weren't bad. The only thing, they were a little bit loud. I had to shout to the guy next to me to tell him what the song was. But it was a good show, good weekend completely. So if anybody didn't go, shame on you. He's going to be back next year twice. And can you control her? Have you got some tape? Or get some of that tape he had and tape her shut. So he will be here twice next year. The second show will be just before the weekend before the Brickyard. And if I understood him right, he's going to have an IndyCar division and the regular SVRA sports car guys. If you're having aches and pains anywhere in your body, I suggest you see Dr. Rob Schroeder. He's a chiropractor who studied everything, top to bottom. You can make an appointment. His office number is 317-388-8755. He's located 8660 Guyan Road. He's got me walking a lot better than I was before. Not totally out of pain, but pretty much. So I'm very pleased with it. And if you ever have trouble with your computer, now I'm a genius at that. I got a new website. I can't figure it out yet. I highly recommend Jack down at Computer Overdrive. They're located at 5240 Crawfordsville Road on that little frontage road off of Crawfordsville, just east of PNC Bank at Lyndhurst. He can solve anything, so get a hold of Jack. His number is 317-328-0766. Now, my first guest is a gentleman that I invited kind of over, I think on Friday. I sent an email to Kelby, and Kelby said, I'll check. Next thing I know, I got an email from him. And I said I was rather surprised because I figured one or both of you would be in Le Mans. He said, both are. I said, oh, boy. So I'm talking to the man. He's in Le Mans. Among all the things that has happened with Ganassi Racing over the years, Indy 500 wins, championships, race wins. They're in NASCAR. They're in sports cars. They teamed with Ford, and at the 50-year anniversary of Ford's win, they did it again. He came back the champion in the GTE Pro Division. They won Le Mans. So please welcome the general manager, managing director of Ganassi Racing, Mr. Mike Hull.
Thank you.
Le Mans, it's just a breeze. You go in and No big deal.
Yeah, they'll probably never invite us back.
Really?
I'm just kidding. It was really exciting for us. We actually we had 4 cars, four entries there, four race cars, because we have a team that we started that's based in the UK that races in the WEC series, which is a global championships for sports cars. So we actually had 4 cars there, finished first, third, and fourth. The first 3 cars that raced in the race were on the lead lap, so our 2 cars were on the lead lap, and I'd never been there before to race. It's an amazing place. It would be like the Indy 500 for sports car racing in terms of the global recognition that it gets and the spectators that are there. There are 300,000 people there on race day. But it's an 8-mile racetrack, so you don't really get a feel quite for that till the race is over, when at least 200,000 of them decided to join us on the pit straight. Literally. But you go down 4 miles and come back 4 miles. It's an amazing, amazing racetrack.
And that's your first visit for a race?
The first time we'd raced there, yeah.
Now, I noticed that I should have mentioned that you had 4 cars. 3 did very well. The 4th one had trouble right off the bat.
Yeah, they had a transmission issue electronically that they solved pretty quickly, but they were down several laps, but they raced the rest of the race and did a great job.
Now, I saw what you guys were doing, and I said to myself, Self, if I'm not mistaken, on your Indy car there's a bow tie. Chevrolet. But you ran Fords, and you beat Chevrolets, incidentally.
Yeah,
how
we
in the
did.
world? How in the world do you do that? I mean,
Well, Chevrolet didn't have a program for us to race at Le Mans, and Ford did. We certainly wanted to race with Chevrolet, but Pratt & Miller has run the Chevrolet Corvette program for this. I think this is their 13th year there. What was really great about it was the fact that Jim Campbell from Chevrolet and Danny Binks, both from Chevrolet, they were the first people to come and congratulate us. Literally the first 2 people to come and congratulate us after the race. It's great to race, in this case, against them. And it's a competitive environment, but we get along with each other.
I did notice, because I did watch the beginning of the race on television, and almost every executive from Ford was there. Everyone. Even Edsel Ford, the 17th or something, I think he was there too. You had everybody there. They took this thing seriously.
Take it very seriously. Ford is a family, it's a family culture there, very much so. There were a lot of people with the last name Ford at the racetrack, certainly. But, one kind of really cool thing, I think, is that Edsel Ford, when he was 14 years old, he went to Le Mans with his dad, Henry II, the Deuce, as they called him in those days, when they won in 1966. He was a 14-year-old kid, went with his dad, got to see the whole thing, and he took his son, Henry III, this year, and they got to experience the same thing that he did with his father. I thought that was really, really, really special for him, and the Ford family is really, really behind this thing.
I certainly hope that his son doesn't have to wait 50 years for another win.
Well, we're gonna go back next year and we're gonna race again. So I hope he only has to wait 1 year.
An interesting thing. You've been with Chip, I think, since 1993. Is that correct? 93?
92.
92 or
yeah,
93.
close.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
And you guys have won about everything. You won the 500, you won championships, you won a lot of races. You're in NASCAR. How much do you oversee? You, Mike Hull, are you involved in NASCAR at all?
Just enough to be dangerous in NASCAR. Not on a regular basis, no, because what we do here in Indianapolis is more than a full-time job. I'm involved with the IndyCar teams and with the in this case the IMSA team, as well as what we do administrationally now with everything that we do for sports car racing. But it's not me; it's all these people that work for us that make this thing happen. I happen to have worked for Chip for a long, long time, so I've gotten to experience some really great things. But it's all about the people at Chip Ganassi Racing for sure.
Oh, sure, but everybody's got to have a leader and somebody to follow in. And you lead by example from what I can see. You don't ask somebody to do something that you can't or won't do yourself, so they don't feel like, well, he's just putting it on me, because if you don't do it, you will. What is it? You are the strategist for a kid by the name of Scott Dixon. He's quite successful. It's amazing what he can do. You need to conserve fuel and win, he can do that. You need to conserve tires and win, he can do that. He does it, has done it. And you're a strategist. Is there strategy involved in the Le Mans 24 hours?
The strategy involved in Le Mans 24 hours is pretty straightforward. The way they administer a race is totally different than what we're used to in the United States. In the United States, we're used to watching every time there's a yellow on the racetrack. It normally is a full course yellow, and everybody gets to pack up, and some people get their lap back. This deal over there isn't like that at all. The way they administer their races is they never close the pit lane, and they never have a true pack-up like we're used to here. So you have to go fast, because you have to stay at the front for 24 hours if you want to have a chance to win the race. You're not going to get your lap back, and you're not going to get track position back. You mentioned Scott Dixon. Scott Dixon broke the lap record there by over 2 seconds in the race, the existing lap record. In his last segment, he ran the last 3 hours of the race in the 69 car, which finished third. I think he was under the lap record on 7 consecutive laps. So this was a race where we had to have we had 3 quality drivers in each of our cars. So that's 3 times 4. That's 12 drivers, and you can't in that race. You can't have a weak link. You can't take the time to come in the pits and take the driver out of the car and put somebody else in. They have to really pedal hard, and that's what all our drivers did there. They respectively, each one of them pedaled really, really hard in their segment, and did a really, really good job.
You know, it's interesting to me how you and Chip get the right people for the right job. I mean, you guys pick drivers and you pick winners. You don't have, like Charlie Kimball. He's having a pretty decent season this year. He's no slouch. And he's busy. Good grief. In between races, he's off making speeches and appearances for diabetes, which is great. But you guys have an eye for talent.
I think Chip is really good at being able to see something in people they can't see in themselves. We certainly have learned from that, and we work really, really hard then. That's in reference to race drivers. And we do the same thing in our building with our people. You know, we move people around in our building all the time, and we'll give somebody a promotion where they say, I don't think I'm ready for this job. And we see in these people from what they've done how good they can be. And we push really, really hard. Chip pushes really, really hard, and it's for the most part we've done well.
I don't think I had heard how fast Scott was, but I know I saw him interviewed before the race, and he was excited to be there. The first time he'd been there, he said he'd been watching it and seen it and so forth, but never been there. And to have performed the way he did in his first effort at that place is amazing. That guy has got talent. It's amazing what he's done. You know, was it last year at Mid-Ohio? He started last and won the damn race. Mm-hmm. I mean, he does know how to, and I find it interesting. A lot of these tracks, as you hear them talking, well, you know, it's kind of narrow. We can't pass. Oh, yeah? Somehow they figure out how to pass each other. I mean, in 2 races at Detroit, Connor Daly had passed 29 drivers between the 2 races. So somehow, somewhere in that little track, it can be done.
It can be done. I think that I don't. A guy like Scott, as an example, I don't think you should ever count him out, because what he does is he's so good at what he's really good at is understanding how to effectively continue to change the angle of the car or his drive style with the angle of the car as the tires degrade through an entire run. Some drivers are really, really fast. They win races, but they're very one-dimensional in the way they drive. drivers like Scott, what they do is they continue to set the angle the car needs at the exit of the corner as early as they can, but they do it as the tires change. And so they never assume that the car is going to be the next time round in the same corner. And I think that's what makes him really, really good. And, I don't know if he gets a good rap or a bad rap for the fuel thing, but what he actually does is he runs fast laps as a refinery. Not too many drivers truly understand how to roll a corner to save fuel and still be fast, and he does a really good job of that.
It's amazing. In fact, I had him on the program when he first got here, and you almost had to pry an answer out of him. He had to ask a question that he couldn't say yes or no. He had to answer. But now he's a good interviewer, and is willing to talk about what is going on, and when the car's not right, he says that, but he doesn't complain. We'll fix it. And, of course, as it turns out, you do. It's got to be fun to have a guy like him and the team that you have driving for you. It's got to be a lot of fun to be around these guys because they all want to win. And you've got the crew to give them a car. And I know when I worked for a couple of teams, the crew knew the driver couldn't win. I don't care what you did. If everybody else fell out, maybe. But these guys work because they know you give them a car, they can win.
Well, the one thing you mentioned, Chip, a few minutes ago, and being able to find talent. Chip understands a very basic concept. If you don't have a race driver that can win the race, it doesn't matter how hard you work on the car. That's being the master of the obvious. But the reality is, you have to have drivers that can win races, so you can surround them with a core group of talented people to make the car go fast. You can't have one without the other and be consistently at the front.
Well, Max Chilton, coming from Formula One, he ran a number of races last year, has shown fairly well. But the disadvantage him is he's at tracks he probably hadn't been to. Ran a few races in Indy Lights, but certainly nothing like IndyCar, and he has not done bad. Oh, somebody brought me their hanky. Oh, that's nice. Right. Is it used or? Jeez.
Do they I'm not going to comment on that.
Good.
Max Chilton came to us very late. We really weren't planning on running 4 cars. That we didn't have the financial ability to be able to run 4 cars. And Max was signed up to run a P1 car in the WEC series with the Nissan team, and that thing they folded their tent and left racing. And Max came available, and we made a deal with Gallagher, the insurance company, to sponsor the car, and he has a lot of ability. He's participated in a big system, driving big race cars in Formula One as well as in P1 in the WEC series. So there was no time loss in the learning curve for understanding what speed's all about.
The question I got here on the hanky, it says, do you have any opinion on the virtual safety car for IndyCar, as Will Power and others have suggested? I don't know if they suggested.
No, I understand virtual safety car, and I've witnessed it firsthand this year at Le Mans, and I also went to Spa to the WEC race earlier on an open weekend a few weeks ago. American racing, what American people, I believe, want to watch is they want to watch action on the racetrack, but they want to watch wheel-to-wheel action. And what happens is when you have a full course yellow in an IndyCar race, a sports car race in North America, or a NASCAR race, what happens is everybody gets bunched back up. And then we go again after the pace car finds the pit lane. With virtual safety car or slow zones, you never see that. So, frankly, in my opinion, it's a great way to control the safety of the racetrack, but it's really a sterile environment for a fan to watch. So I'm not in favor of it. I just come out and say that. And the reason primarily is because I think the fans want to watch wheel-to-wheel racing, and oftentimes the only time they get to see it is the first 10 laps or so after a restart. And it eliminates, what it does, it typically eliminates a pace car going out and bunching the field up. And but believe me, if you took the time to go to one of those races overseas and watched that kind of racing, I think you'd understand what I'm saying.
Well, I think Formula One's using them, aren't they? I believe they are. And I was watching the race a little bit on Sunday. I'm trying, virtual safety car, where the hell is it?
Yeah. Well, it's a signboard. You know, what they have is they have signboards in each corner station all the way around the racetrack. And the signboards will have flat, like instead of having a blue flag, it'll be a flashing blue. If there's a safety car, they will only send what they call it. We call it a pace car. They call it a safety car. They will only send a safety car on the racetrack if they have to dispatch an ambulance. So the pace car only goes out on the racetrack when they have to dispatch an ambulance. But everybody still has to slow to safety car speed at that point in time. So the spacing is always the same. And then those signboards will flash green. At that point, you don't get back to start-finish. They just flash green and you start racing again in the position where you are. The pit lane always remains open. You can pit whenever you want to. It's not a complicated process. It just never lets you get back to the front.
Boring.
It is boring.
I remember a number of years ago, IndyCar had lights that flashed like that.
Yes,
and
pacer lights or something.
Yeah,
that's the thing they had here at the Speedway that caused all that controversy. Yeah.
Oh, did it ever?
When Bobby Unser overran the pacer lights.
Oh, really? Bobby Unser would do that? Oh, come now.
I remember that deal.
Yeah, that was a big stink. He was, hey, you're out running the lights. Texas, you're going back.
They must not have thought he was there. He didn't think they saw him. Yeah.
The Texas race are going back again. Are they starting from scratch, or are they going to continue the race from where it was?
I don't know. That's a question for IndyCar. I hope that what they do is, they said we're going to go back and we're going to warm up and race. So that means to me that we're going to line up and race, but I don't know how we're going to line up. And I would hope that we just go back and give the fans what they need to see there.
Yeah, I was thinking if they go in and try and start the race from where it left off, why bother to go out there? It seemed to me, why? Of course, you've got a ticket, you get in. But
well, I think it's a good opportunity. I think Eddie Gossage, it's a one-day show, and if anybody can promote an event, he can. And Texas is a terrific racetrack for racing, and we've always had a strong grandstand there. And it's a great opportunity to be able to have that another time this year. So I'm in favor of going back. I just hope that we have a 2x2 restart at least, and we don't have to deal with lightning, thunder, rain, locust, and all the other things that came down from the sky there those 2 days in a row.
Now, Chevrolet the last couple of years has had pretty much their own way, and now Honda has come on pretty strong this year, and I've heard and seen your comments where you think that's great for Honda to pick it up. Now we got some competition.
Well, in this case, I'm a Chevrolet guy, but I think that the racing needs to be on the racetrack to display talent. If the engine packages or the aero packages are not dissimilar from each other, then the drivers that hold onto the wheels on the steering wheel that have real talent will get to the front, and that's what we need to see.
I just heard that next year Formula One's going to have a halo on their cars, trying to prevent things from going and hitting the driver. Do you think that can solve a problem?
I wish we could solve the problem. We are not going to solve the problem if we don't start trying to solve the problem. The first go at this thing, or maybe the second or third go at this thing with the cockpit may not fix the problem, but we're never going to find out if we don't start getting after it. I think that does need to happen.
It seemed to me that the Dallara company should be given an attaboy for the construction of the car, because when Mr. Newgarden went head first along the wall and got out of the car, although he slumped to the ground, but he got out, and he just broke a shoulder and a wrist problem, kind of shows that the car construction, the cars are pretty safe.
I think there's no question about that. I think the reality is that every time we have an accident, the next person that has an accident has a better car because of it. That's what IndyCar has done for a long, long time. Is they've learned, Terry Trammell and that whole group of safety people, Jeff Horton included there, and then Jeff Horton originally came from the Delphi group, which was the original safety group in the kart days, and those guys have worked tirelessly to push for change in the cars every time it's required for safety. And so Joseph, in this case, certainly the byproduct of the fact that he stepped away from the race car pretty much unhurt, is the result of all those years of work by the safety people.
And, of course, the safer barrier did its job as well, although I never figured out where they put a gash in that thing. Now, that's not that's not aluminum foil, so something hit it and gashed it, but I don't know what it was.
Yeah, I didn't go look at it. I don't know either.
Would you like to see more ovals?
I would say that, in that case, I would just say one thing. Connor Daly's the luckiest guy in the world, and he should thank Joseph Newgarden, because if Joseph Newgarden hadn't been there, Connor would have been straight into the fence at 90 degrees. And although the accident was really, really bad, I think it probably saved Connor Daly from some pretty serious injury there.
Yeah, he was heading for it, no question.
Yeah, he should be thanking Joseph for that.
I'd be curious. He and Joseph have been pretty close friends. I hope they remain that way.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Geez, now I just asked you a question. I forgot what it was. Oh, are you? Would you?
Should we get somebody else up here?
Yeah, I think we should.
Yeah, okay.
I got into the safety thing and I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
Okay, that's all right.
Would you like to see more ovals on the series?
I'd like to see ovals that are promoted. I think we had this discussion the last time I was with you here. I love oval racing. I love Indy cars on ovals. But IndyCar racing needs to race in front of people. We don't need to race in front of aluminum. And we just talked about Texas. That is a properly promoted oval race. We'll go to Iowa. The place will be packed. I mean, that place only seats, I think, 35,000. They have the standing room for 10,000. So they probably have 50,000 people there for the race. And they're really engaged fans for the race. That's what we need. So if we take on oval racing, it needs to have purpose. I think Phoenix was a good example of an event that was successful the first year. They need to build from that and make it better. So any oval we can have where we can get people to come and watch us race, I think that's where we should be.
Well, that's one of my discussions with the man in charge for marketing promotion. You need to promote the races, help the promoter, because I've been told, well, it's the promoters. Oh, yeah? Who knows your series better than you?
Yeah.
Who knows your drivers better than you? And there's some really good guys in the series that, people will come and see. So I think, and I thought the guys that went up in the grandstands at Texas when the delay signing got off, they got besieged. There should have been more of them, I thought.
Well, I thought they did a great job. They kind of took their life in their hands there, but I think that we have to make a difference. IndyCar racing has to do things differently to make a difference, to be able to push the numbers up, to get people more interested in our sport. We are not going to do that if we continue to do things the same way. It's not going to happen.
Well, I agree with you, and I hope that somebody else will agree somewhere along the line and things will pick up. I know they promoted the living heck out of the 100th running of the 500, and it did well. Now the question is, what happens next year? Can they do the same? I know Doug got flyer miles because he was all over creation, and he spent a lot of money on gas driving, and I thought he did a heck of a job making appearances and doing television, radio in various areas, promoting the race, and I think they need to build on that for IndyCar and realize, take the guys, take the drivers, get these guys out in front of the people, get them in town, get them at conventions and trade shows.
Outside Indianapolis, I think the problem we have, all of us live here, and we kind of have this inside 465 mentality about what Indianapolis is all about, because we love Indianapolis. We love the racetrack. We love everything about it. But people like what you said away from where we live here need to find out more about us. That does need to happen, and that requires a serious amount of promotion. And then maybe you wouldn't worry about the 101st. If people really wanted to participate as fans, because we were promoted in a better manner or a different manner, ticket sales would be going through the roof here.
You know, an interesting thing, the first couple of years that IndyCar was in Iowa, if you drove through Newton, which really took a lot of time, it's a big town, they had signs, welcome race fans, painted on store windows. They had stuff everywhere. It used to irritate me because we go into a town for a race and I go to a motel or we go out to eat. Are you going to the race? What race? It's 3 miles down the road. Who's there? IndyCar. Oh, I didn't know that. How the hell can you not know there's a race in town, in any town? I never understood that. And of course, I don't generally keep my mouth shut. So I go to the people at IndyCar and say, you're dropping the ball. Somehow, if these people 2 miles away don't know there's a race, something's wrong. And the promoter's not doing his job either. And as a result of whatever it is, we've lost Milwaukee, and that's a shame.
It is a shame, I think, just because of how important Milwaukee's been to IndyCar racing.
Great racing.
Not to race there is pretty difficult.
Great racing. Well, I understand part of the problem is that the state doesn't want IndyCar during the fair because they want to use the infield for parking. Well, I hate to tell them this, but when they had the IndyCar races twice during the fair, or twice during the year and once during the fair, they got a lot more people come to the fair because they went to the race as well.
Yeah.
But, oh well, what can I say? Ted Lake is gone, and so I guess it's left up to others, and others don't care. This weekend, going back to Road America, when was we were there, 2009 it was, I believe, the last time?
Road America.
That's this weekend.
No. I don't know when the last time was we actually raced there. I can tell you Chip Ganassi, as a race team, an IndyCar race team, the last time we raced there was in 2002.
Yeah.
And I know Champ Car raced there for 3 or 4 years after that. But I'm not sure that, it's been a long, long time.
I think it seemed to me it was 2009. It's the last time IndyCar was there, because I worked for Simon and he ran both series at the time.
Oh, okay.
So we were up there, and it's a phenomenal facility and a great area to go up and race.
Well, they have they have a beer garden there. Do you know that?
I'd heard that. Yeah.
Yeah. So they have corn on the cob, bratwurst, and beer on multiple stations. But you know what they have now?
Oh.
Just to keep up with the times, they have a juice bar.
Oh, jeez.
So anybody that's on the health kick can head straight there instead of the beer garden. So you can take your choice.
So what do you think, Cindy? What do you think? The juice bar? Oh. Somehow I knew that answer.
Yeah.
So did you guys go up there and test?
We did test up there. We tested there in the fall. I had a great test up there. And then this week, Max Chilton went up and did a rookie day up there. And Tony Kanaan was up there for IndyCar. There were 3 drivers in the late afternoon that did a brake test for IndyCar for trying to get something resolved for brakes for next year, for maybe potentially a change, a vendor change on the rotor pad combination. So we've run up there a little bit. Yeah.
And your drivers like it?
I think the quality of that racetrack as a natural terrain road track it's really, really special. It's a terrific place. It has such great IndyCar history, and it's like we talked about Milwaukee a few minutes ago. It's a place IndyCar should be racing because it showcases the ability drivers have on a real racetrack, and the technical ability that some drivers have over others will certainly be displayed there.
I know it's one of the places that AJ remembers well.
Yeah.
Boy, he had a crash up there.
That was a big accident.
When I first started Autosport, and I think it was 78 or 79, I went up there because I had a television show in Chicago. So I had ended up with a divorce over it. I bought a $22,000 16 millimeter motion picture camera, which at the time was top of the line. And when I came home with that, well, I won't go into that. But anyway, I'm filming some cars, and I went across behind the pit area, half a mile or something, where they come through the trees, and I'm following a car. All of a sudden I realized, you've been standing here a while and you haven't seen him lately. Well, of course, they didn't have screens there like they do now. So I go back outside and find out he crashed. Oh, gee. So now I start all over again. It happened to me twice, and I finally decided, heck with that. I'll just stay out here and watch him come up the hill and go into turn one.
Well, we tested there years ago with Jimmy Vassar when he was driving for us. We did a Goodyear tire test there, and he did the same thing AJ did. He went off in the first corner. He went straight off. He had a tire explode right at the end of the straightaway. Still, he hadn't lifted yet. He was still before the braking area. He was so far off the racetrack that the only way we could get to him in the car was to go to the access road on the outside. And he was lucky. It was really muddy, and it had been raining, and his car dug in and flipped 3 or 4 times, and his car was upside down when we got to him. And, I mean, it was us. There was like 2 teams testing there, and the safety guys were trying to get out there. We figured out how to get there. We got there faster than the safety guys. And he was covered from head to toe in mud, but he was fine. There's some. That's a high-speed place that's now at least has decent safety barriers there, so that's a big step up.
Well, it'll be interesting to see the return, and I think it should be a good race. I think there's a lot of guys like Max Chilton. This ought to be right up his alley. He's tested, so he's been there and seen it a little bit. And this is the kind of track that ought to fit into him, I would think. But I like the natural terrain ones where they go up and down like Barber. You don't realize there's a lot of changes. Sonoma, my God, you go from one block to the next, and you've dropped 100 feet. Those are kind of interesting racetracks to race on. I think IndyCar races well on them too, actually.
Yeah, it's a proper racetrack.
Well, I want to thank you for getting off a plane Sunday night, being in the office.
Well, I came back just to be with you.
Oh, yeah.
I would say one thing about France. I don't need a show of hands to understand who's been here or been there. But the first day I got there, I've always wanted to go to Normandy. And so I got in a car and blasted up there. It was about from Le Mans in a car. It's probably a little over 2 hours to get up there. Got up there by 9:30 in the morning and spent all day up there. To see what those guys did in the terrain that they had to go over makes you appreciate more what that generation of people did for us, because it had to be absolutely impossible to do what they did. And then they have a cemetery there up above Omaha Beach. And when you go up there, you have a clear view of the expanse of the beach itself. But what's truly impressive is you can't see the end of the cemetery. You can't see the end. There's so many people buried there. Yeah. It's absolutely amazing. So if you ever have an opportunity to go to France, instead of going to Paris, instead of going to the wine country, you should go up there, because it'll make you appreciate the fact that those guys worked hard for the freedom we have. Yeah,
and as they're coming up the beach, they're up there looking down and watching it. It's amazing that many got through.
Well, you can see, the big thing was Eisenhower decided they had to go that day, although the weather was terrible. The reason they did was because the tide was the furthest out that it would. I think it was 34 days until the tide would be out that far again. And then when you see the beach there, you realize why they had to do that, because to get all the people onto the beach and all the equipment onto the beach, with what they had to fight against, they would have never got on the beach. It would have been like when the British were at Dunkirk. They would have been going back the other direction. I mean, it's really impressive to see it.
It is, and it's amazing what they accomplished against the odds they had against them, but they accomplished it.
Yeah.
So it's quite something. Well,
really good.
I appreciate you thinking of me and saying I got to get back to Indianapolis early Saturday or late Sunday night to be here.
Yeah.
I appreciate you taking the time.
I've slept since then too.
I bet you have. Probably more than 8 hours too, maybe. but wish you well.
Thank you.
And be watching on television. And as I said, that for you guys, the qualifying will be on delayed at 5:30, but it'll be on, and practice will be on live on NBC Sports Network. Thanks for coming.
You're welcome.
Good luck this weekend. Congratulations on the win at Le Mans. Boy, that's got to be, Chip said, of all the things that he's done, that's one of the top of the line, top shelf.
It's definitely ranks toward the top or at the top. There's no question about that. Yeah.
Good job. Congratulations to you and the team.
Thank
we'll
you.
see you Sunday on television.
Yeah, great. Thanks.
Mike Hull, Managing Director of Chip Ganassi Racing. My next guest is here, and he will be coming up when his guide will allow him. The tonight's show is presented by Sam Pierce Chevrolet in Daleville, Indiana. You got to come to the country to see why the best prices in the country are, in fact, at Sam Pierce Chevrolet in Daleville. You'll also find why Sam is always at the top of customer satisfaction. You just take I-69 north, exit 34, and exit east 1 mile, and you won't miss them. Sam Pierce Chevrolet. And if it's time to look for insurance for your home, your car, do what I did. Call Mike Pardee at VP Insurance. Let him give you a quote. You'll find you get better coverage for less money. Mike is at VP Insurance. They're located at 5004 West 16th Street in the beautiful town of Speedway. You give him a call. His number is 317-248-0070. And I want to remind you that the Pocono preview, there's a couple of copies left up here. And the Grand Marshal, by the way, for the vintage car division is going to be Dick Simon. And he's kind of excited to get up there and run that. And they've got about 45 cars signed up. So if you're going to Pocono, you got to get there early and watch for that. It's going to be a good event. This past weekend was the 2016 Brickyard Vintage Racing Invitational. It will be back next year for 2 times. But their next event is the Vintage Grand Prix at Mid-Ohio, June 23rd to the 26th. If you get a chance, you got to go over. It is a great event, beautiful cars, and some of the best drivers around. You get the chance to see them, get up close and personal, talk to the drivers, take pictures of the cars. It's a great time. You'll enjoy it. If you haven't joined the museum, you need to do it. They're changing it completely. They have, as you come in on the left-hand side, the Roger Penske display, which will be there, I think, until October? I'm sorry? November, okay. And then they're working on, they took all the offices out of the north end, and there's cars back there. You have to go to the John in order to see that, because it's just a little dinky sign. And a lot of people, I said, did you go? I didn't know it was there. Well, I guess they ran out of ink, couldn't make it big enough to see. But if you're interested in joining the museum, you'll find there's various degrees that you can join and various perks that come with it. So the young lady sitting in the corner is from the museum. She can answer anything, and I've got information up here. Be sure and help yourself. And again, if you're a vintage car fan, you need to subscribe to the Vintage Racing Quarterly. It is absolutely the best magazine you'll find. It's not some cheap little thing you find on a grocer's counter. It is a top flight magazine. So go to svra.com and subscribe to the Vintage Racing Quarterly. And if you're looking to have a company party or a big family party, you want to know how the heck do I organize this? Do what you need to do. 25 years experience, call Tony Meyer. You can reach her at 317-515-7929 or email her at tmeyer, M-E-Y-E-R, tmeyerindy63 at AOL.com. Now, my next guest is a gentleman that he and I have become very close. I'm seeing him for the first time, actually. I called my close personal friend, Mr. Jordan, and I said, have you got anybody in town that can speak well and is a good shoe? And he said, got just the guy for you. He is currently the leader of the USAC National Midget. That means he's ahead of Brian Clausen. He's leading Brian by, I think, 10 points. He's done very well. We're going to find out what he's been up to, how he got here, and what got him. How come he didn't get a job at Burger King or something? Please welcome Mr. Spencer Bayston. How did I do?
Thank you for having me.
Oh, Dick threatened me if I didn't, so I had no choice. How did you start racing? Is anybody in your family a former race driver?
Actually, no. I'm the first driver out of the family. We've kind of been around racing. My grandparents live about 10 miles east of Fairbury, American Legion Speedway over in Illinois. So I kind of grew up around racing, but never actually got the shot. I kind of started on my four-wheeler around our property at my house, driving fast, and I was asking my dad, I want to race, but he didn't want me racing a quad because he didn't think it was safe. So we resorted to a quarter midget, which I started racing when I was 10, and racing at Kokomo Speedway, just kind of a hobby racing deal. It was whenever we wanted to, whenever we had time. It was never really a super serious program we were running. So ran that for a couple years, and then decided to move up to micros because that seemed like what everyone else was kind of doing, moving up. And so we tried those out, ran those for 2 years, and then on my third year, I ran the Mel Kenyon Midget Series, and Donna Mel Kenyon took care of my car, and that was kind of the first time I had actually ran for like a points championship. And we ran 15 races and was able to win 10 of them and won the championship and
Jeez.
learned a lot. So that was a really fun year, and that kind of started the whole kind of seriousness of racing. It was no longer really a hobby. So then we started looking into running national midgets, and so I got with BCI, Brian Clausen Incorporated, and started running with them. And then now we're on Keith Kuhn's Motorsports.
Well, yeah, you start beating Brian, he's going to get rid of you for sure. You've not only run USAC, you run was it iPower?
Yeah, Power
Power I
Yep.
mean, and you've done quite well there as well.
Yeah, we've had some success with Power Eye. It's a great series, kind of based out of Illinois. A lot of great racetracks.
Yeah, I'm from Illinois. There are some good ones, strangely enough. But what steered you toward USAC? Just the fact that they probably got the best drivers, best competition.
Yeah, it's USAC is obviously, it's a very historical series. There have been great names come through USAC like Mel Kenyon and AJ Foyt and Jason Leffler and now Kyle Larson and Rico and Brian and all them. So a lot of big names, a lot of success. Even Tony Stewart, Jeff Gordon. So it's an honor to be able to run with USAC, and then to be able to now say we're leading the points. It's a great feeling. These are a lot of the drivers I've looked up to growing up, going to the races, sitting in the stands with my dad, and just kind of watching. It's really cool to be a part of it now.
You're leading Brian Clausen. Now, Brian won the midget week, but you stayed right up with him. What is it about a midget and you that works? Because you're fairly new at this. You haven't been running for 20 years. But you're quite successful. Do you find that sliding through a corner in a midget is exciting?
Oh, it's exciting, that's for sure. No, but really the most important thing is having the right people back you. So, running with the right teams, starting with BCI, and it's obviously a great program, and then now Keith Kuhn's Motorsports. You can have a really, really good driver, but if you don't have a good car, you're not going to run well. So it's very crucial and very important to have a good car behind you, and I've been fortunate enough to have that the last few years I've been running. So that's really the big thing. So I got to thank everyone that's helped me out. My dad for leading me through it and kind of giving me the opportunity.
Does your dad get nervous when you're driving, or your mom? Does she run and hide?
Yeah. Well, from what I've heard, I obviously can't see him, but no. When I first started, my mom and grandma would come to the races, and they would hide behind my dad and grandpa because they didn't want to watch. And actually, the first time I had my grandparents at a race, a microsprint race, I flipped down the front straightaway, and grandma stopped coming for a couple months. So that wasn't the best start, but now they travel and support me almost every weekend. So it's great having them there. But yeah, it's definitely nerve-wracking for sure.
Who's your sponsors?
Well, I race for Keith Kuhn, so Toyota really is kind of the people who fund that program and make it all happen. But my dad's been fortunate enough to allow me to run, and Priority Aviation has been they've been helpful when I was racing for Brian Clausen Incorporated, but now they're starting to step up a little bit with the Keith Kuhn's program. So they're a great group. It's Richard and Jennifer Marshall. They're from Texas, and it's a great family, and we've really gotten to know them pretty well. So it's like I said, it's important to have the right people behind you and supporting you.
Kind of sounds like the Coletta clan and Coletta Aviation sponsoring Doug and I think the other 2 cars they've got. Do you work on the cars at all? Do they allow you to get involved so you understand the setup and the suspension, how it works? So as you move up, I assume at some point you might, just a guess, that you might want to end up at 16th and Georgetown, maybe.
Yeah, for sure. It's well, the 2 teams I have ran for, Brian and now Keith, they have hired workers, so they do all the work, but it's pretty neat to be around it. I really haven't been working on the cars. I've been learning a lot just from talking and watching. Right now, our job as the drivers is when we get back to the shop, we wash the cars and panels, and then that's about it. So, no, we like to help out, but you don't want to get too involved because I feel like if I do something, I'm gonna mess it up. They're the professionals; they know what they're doing. And they, they really know what they're doing.
Are you telling me this is a full-time job for you, racing, right now? It's all you do?
Yeah.
I have a friend who's a manager of the Crew Car Wash. I'm going to recommend that he talk to you because if you can wash this midget, for Pete's sake, you can wash a car. That's easy. Pick up a couple of bucks,
There you go.
What is your goal? I mean, the midgets run on they run on both pavement and dirt, don't they?
Yeah, here lately, pavement unfortunately has been kind of falling off, but I really hope that eventually it'll kind of come back up. But obviously the Champ Car Series, the Silver Crown Series, they still run on the pavement. So
are you looking to get into any of those?
I would love to eventually. It's pretty neat.
Go harass Andy Hillenberg. Get on his case.
There you go.
What is your goal? I mean, now you're racing midgets, you're in USAC, you're leading the points. Well, if you could win that'd be quite something. But what's your goal?
I think every young driver's goal is to eventually, be someone like Tony Stewart, Jeff Gordon. But more realistically, I just want to keep racing. I want to stay in the seat. I want to, be able to make a living, traveling all across the country, racing, midget sprint cars, Silver Crown cars, wing sprint cars, a stock car maybe someday. But for right now,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. A what? A stock car?
A stock car.
Well, go out in 465. Go out and run around there. See all your friends here. You've already, all of a sudden they're saying, what the hell are we listening to him for?
No, but for sure, it's just, I want to keep racing. I want to stay in the seat. It's not the easiest thing to do. Brian and now Kyle obviously has made it to NASCAR, but it takes some insane talent and a lot of help backing wise to stay in the seat. But for right now, yeah, my goal is just I want to keep racing.
I find it interesting that Kyle has raced open wheel and was very, very good. Went to NASCAR, does okay, but he comes back and runs midgets and he wins. And he hadn't been in the cars for what? Jeez Louise. Have you beat him?
Yeah, actually, during Midget Week, I won the second night at Gas City, and that was by far my biggest win. It was kind of cool standing there doing the top 3 photos and looking to my left and seeing Brian, who just ran the Indy 500 a few days before, and then Kyle Larson, who runs every Sunday. So it's I was standing there like, wow, this is really cool. It was a great feeling. But like I said, I've been looking up to those guys for all my life. So now to get to race with them, it's pretty cool.
Do you have in the back of your mind doing what Brian's trying to do, run 200 races this year now, which used to be regular? I mean, these guys used to run 3-4 nights a week when they ran the midgets and sprint cars and so forth. Would you like to attempt that, or is that more than you really want to get into?
No, I would. I think every driver wants to race. If they could, they'd race every single day. So that would be a really, really fun schedule. You get to see a lot of different places. You travel all across the country. You race a lot of different cars, meet a lot of new people, and it'd be a great learning experience. But it takes some serious time and effort to put in all the planning. And Brian and Lauren Stewart, now they're newly engaged, but Lauren is kind of, I'd say, the family manager. She really takes care of all the scheduling. She's kind of behind the scenes, and I've kind of got to, I've obviously known them. I've gotten to see what it takes to put that type of schedule together, and it's very impressive.
Do you like living out of a suitcase?
Yeah. Yes and no. I go down to Columbus, where Keith Kunz Motorsports is based out of, and I stay down there quite a bit now. And so this is kind of the first time I've been away from home quite a bit. So it's nice, but then you're gone for a week and you're ready to go back home. But then you sit at home for 2 days and you're ready to leave again. So I like being on my feet. I like moving around. I like seeing different places. So I guess you could say I like living in a suitcase.
Where is your hometown?
Lebanon, Indiana.
Lebanon, all that way. Wow.
Yeah.
Have you traveled all this way now and set up a little home here in Indianapolis, or do you go back and forth?
No, I'm 17, so I still live at home.
Oh, okay. Gee. Okay. If you were my kid, I'd throw you out. Well, I'm only kidding. There's something about racing now. As you can see, I've been over the tracks and run over a number of times. I've been around a long time. But there's something about this sport that once it gets in your blood, look at Mr. Jordan. He's been around probably as long as I have, and he's still there. There's something about the sport and the people in it that I find fascinating. I mean, when I can call Mike Hull or email him, and he's in France, and he says, yeah, I'll be there Tuesday. It's just neat, and I can't get away. Now I get to meet somebody like yourself who's up and coming, somebody to watch over the years, probably keep me going for another 10 years. Well, maybe not 10 years. No, don't panic. I probably won't be here 10 years. But it's just a neat sport. All of the good people and all of the work and coordination it takes to put a car under a driver so that he can win with the damn thing. I mean, I just find it. I love it. I love racing.
Me too. I love being a part of it. It kind of, once it gets in your blood, you can't get it out. So it's all you think about. You go to the races and you talk to people, and that's all. That's what we live off of. That goes what we wake up to every morning. It's what we go to sleep at night. So it's pretty cool.
Now, if it says anything, I used to wash Indy cars, but they don't go in the mud. I had to get bugs off of them and tire stuff and clean them up like that. But I got in one several times and got to get pushed out onto pit road at Indianapolis. That was kind of neat. I used to change a right front tire, and now when they slow them down, when I did it, they come in pits at 120 miles an hour. Never gave that a thought. Now all of a sudden I think, geez, you weren't too smart. But it was part of it. It was exciting. It was fun. I loved it, and I'm still here. I started this program in 1971 or something like that. I can't remember when I started it, and I'm still here. I love it. I love people like meeting you. Now I'll be watching you, seeing what you're doing. Keep up with you. Then I'll harass Mr. Jordan again and say, well, he looks like he's hot. Let's get him back.
There you go. I'm always welcome, right?
Yeah, of course.
There you go.
Love to talk to you again. Has Dick been any help to you?
I don't.
You don't know him?
I know him.
That's Dick Jordan.
I know who he is.
Oh, okay.
He gave me a call, and it was pretty cool. I've seen him around. I've seen him at the banquet, and but he's a pretty cool guy, and I'm glad he was able to help me out and get up here.
Yeah, he said, let me call him and see. I said, well, it's a little early. He might not be up yet. I'll get him up. Don't worry about it. Well, I'm glad you answered the phone and you knew who the hell was talking to you. You didn't think this is a crank call. I'd have thought that. Dick Jordan's calling it's a crank call. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to be here. Congratulations on what you've done so far this year. Keep it up. I think it would be kind of neat to see you ahead of a couple of these guys. Show them that it can be done and they can be beat. It's fun.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Here, keep an eye on them. Got to watch the midgets, but watch them. They're a lot of fun. Keith Kunz, they put a good car on the track. That's for sure. You certainly are driving for one of the better teams, for sure.
It's like a luxury program. Every time you get in the car, you're not really fighting setup. You can be solely focused on just driving your race. You're not having to worry about things breaking or mechanical problems or any of that. It's unbelievable how good of a program they have and how good of a base they have and how much history the team has. So it's really, really neat to be a part of it.
Well, that's great. And obviously they don't hire somebody like me to drive for them, that's for sure. Well, good luck for the rest of the season, and we'll keep an eye and see how things are going. Maybe we'll call you again. And this time if Dick calls you, it might be a crank call, but that's all right. Answer it anyway. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. I
Watch
really appreciate
him. Up-and-comer Spencer Brayton. Thanks for being here. Next week we will be here again Don't know yet who my guests are. I've got some invitations out. I haven't heard back because, strangely enough, IndyCar's racing this weekend, and their guys are, believe it or not, are making appearances around. One or two of them are in Iowa, because after Road America, there's a week off, and they go to Iowa. So we'll have somebody. We'll get some guests here. We'll be here next week, Tuesday night. I want to thank everybody for watching. I think everything worked well this week, and we're going to make things even better. Thanks for watching. Until next week, Don Kay saying thanks for watching. See you then. Good night. If you want information on the museum, well, probably got some paperwork. It doesn't cost you anything to read it. You might look at it and say, geez, my company ought to do this. And if you want to know what's going on for the Pocono preview out in the Pocono 500, I got the newsletter up here, Help Yourself. And I got to remember to get something out of the cooler before I leave. If there's some more programs, is there any more programs left?